Thank you. Well, I'm here to talk about integrating a more future-oriented thinking in research. There's a story about a wild boar and a fox. The wild boar was rubbing his tusks against a tree. A fox passing by asked him what he was doing. The boar said, "My tusks are my weapon. I'm sharpening them." The fox said, "Why waste your time sharpening your weapons when there's no danger in sight? You're being foolish." Just then a hunter appeared on the scene. Frightened by the boar's sharpened tusks, he turned on the fox and instead shot him dead. This story has lessons for organizations. In today's unpredictable and complex world, organizations are facing a tension between the need to produce, which is based in the current, and the need to innovate. Innovation requires us to go beyond the short term. The question is, what role, if any, can research play in helping organizations address this tension by developing a more future-oriented perspective? I'm here to talk about our experiences in this area and see how research can be useful. There already exist different ways that organizations think about the future. On the one hand, you have trend analysis and trend scouting. Organizations scout for these consumer trends that are emerging, and they become the starting point to develop new ideas that will resonate with the next thing. On the other hand, there is futuring. The emphasis here is on uncertainty, and it's defined by long-term scenarios or imaginations. Somewhere in the middle of this lies another approach, which also has a future-oriented outlook, but it comes from looking at the fringes of change. It's a space called emergence. Let me share with you some research we've undertaken in this area in the subsequent slides. Our client, a global consumer electronics company, was focusing its attention on the Indian market. It was important to develop culturally relevant products. However, new products and businesses were changing the way Indian consumers were integrating technology into their lives. With rapid urbanization, the focus on the current would have been too limiting. The challenge was not just to be relevant today, but also in the future. So the question was, how might we inspire the organization to develop future-ready products for India? Underlying that was a broader question on what assumptions should be questioned, especially because India is seen as an emerging market. The first challenge was to develop a focal point for the research. A workshop was conducted amongst key stakeholders to address this. A range of global trends was discussed. So these are powerful, transformative forces that would change the global economy, business, society, and the way we live. In addition, inputs were also collected by stakeholders from their own work and markets. And affinity mapping of the trends and the observation led to 5 key clusters. These were then narrowed down to 3 based on the overall company objectives. The 3 trends were co-age, experience economy, and womanomics. With the focal point, it was then important to understand how these were being manifested in India. Were co-age, womanomics, experience economy evident? If yes, in what shape and form? So we conducted secondary research. For this, we developed a framework to help scour for evidence of the change and its dimensions. For example, new brands and business models, new behaviors, social issues, etc. In addition to secondary research, we spoke with a panel of experts. This included branding, youth leaders, design and product development, culture experts. The interviews provided us a more granular look into the origins of change, as well as provided us input on the local language articulation and specific examples that we could then pursue further. So with the rich insights that we had from the secondary research and expert interviews, it was time to immerse ourselves in the change. And so we set off on a learning journey in India. Our learning journey spanned across several days. The first component of this was immersions. Each day was constructed to immerse the team in an experience that they could experience in a more sensorial way. It was really important to steep the stakeholders in this so that they could shift their mental models. Our immersions were of different types. Firstly, we immersed ourselves into spaces that represented the changes taking place. So this included, for example, a wellness retreat on the outskirts of Bangalore to represent the experience economy. Secondly, we went on guided tours with the experts to understand the social and cultural context within which the changes are manifesting. And experts were able to show us the old and the new and how people are responding to it. Finally, every day was interspersed with breaks at mealtime, and these were often thematic breaks so that we could experience how daily life was being influenced. And these, of course, also were accompanied by debriefs. The second component was conversations with people who were the game changers. Here you can see some interviews that are taking place. The main picture is an interview with an award-winning social enterprise. By talking with this social enterprise, we learned about how exchange is an important part of giving, and the idea of barter exchange for sustainable change began to emerge. Some of the others we spoke with included a female entrepreneur. She was breaking gender stereotypes and had developed an online marketplace. Our immersion into the fringes of change had provided us a unique perspective on the consumer and how they're evolving. It had sharpened our senses. So the final stage was to put all of this learning together and determine a way forward. To do this, we worked together to put all the learning and observations on a wall of observations. This helped us to see how things were connected. Analysis by grouping also helped us to develop a shared framework of the evolving consumer and the forces of change. The findings were used to question the prevailing assumptions about the country. They were also captured in a country book that became the basis for future brainstorming and starting point for other projects. In a complex world, it is important for us to step out of the current and the immediate and think about possibilities. In research, we need to move from studying the now to enable discussions that question how things can be. We can do this by adopting the 5 steps highlighted here, and that helps us to create a space for reflection and for emergence to emerge. The benefits of doing this are multifold. Of course, by highlighting change, we can bring to light new opportunities. It inspires stakeholders to think about things differently, and it creates a shared understanding of the future for more effective decision making. Clayton Christensen talks about the innovator's dilemma, where leading companies listen to their best customers, but often these are the customers who adopt technologies and new technology changes last. Leading companies will measure size and growth of markets to understand their customers, but disruptive innovations are unpredictable and you cannot detect them so easily through traditional measurements. Also, leading companies focus on higher returns and larger markets, but disruptive innovations often start small. To overcome this dilemma, what is required is for research to not just show expertise, but also to enable interaction. Not just to be evidence-based, but also allow for creativity in our thinking and our doing. And a more foresight-driven approach enables us to do that. So yes, there is a place for research in bringing a more future-centric view of the consumer and their world. It means there are 3 things that are required of us. First, we need to go beyond the confines of the category to consider social, cultural, economic, business changes that are taking place. Secondly, it's important for us to be able to deal with ambiguity, as the objective of such studies is not just to provide concrete recommendations, but in fact to initiate discussion. And thirdly, we need to work in more collaborative ways with stakeholders. So in a time of disruption, It is time for brands and stakeholders to get out of their comfort zone and think about possibilities for their brand and their company. And it is this time to create space for emergence. Thank you.